I don't know if people understand the pressure that you're under as an athlete once you get injured, right? When you get injured as an athlete, the position that you're fighting for isn't necessarily solidified, right? So you get injured, they place you on medication. Mm-hmm. These medications are for pain management, right? Yes. How much time did they give you to heal to get back on the field? And was it fully healed, or obviously you still had pain?
No, it wasn't healed at all, right? And so that was the whole thing. I came into camp with an unhealed foot in the first place. And so, we talk about injuries, especially in football. We don't talk about it in the realm of trauma enough.
There we go.
It's a traumatic experience that's happened on your body and on your mind. And now the trauma speeds up a little bit more because stresses are involved, because mentally I got to get back out there or I might not have a job. Can't make the club in the tub. And so that mental aspect of it is the hardest part, and we often don't talk about that. So it's not about how much time they give you. It's about more so how they treat you after you get hurt, right? It's that, hey, we know you're hurt, but we kind of give you that side eye, like, don't be hurt too long there now, boy. Hey, you know what's at stake here. And so that insinuation can make you a little uneasy. And so I went through that, and that's probably one of the reasons why I ended up breaking my foot again in the off season. Yeah. But that's neither here nor there. It's really survival of the fittest. Everybody in football is pretty much hurt. It's how much hurt can you deal with and play at a high level and still maintain.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people are critics. A lot of people are fanatics, and they're watching from the outside in like, oh, this person's stupid. Yeah. They're taking this, they're doing that. Right. But they're not understanding the pressure you're under. They don't know that your contract may be up. It's almost like if you hypothetically get sick at outside of work one day when you have a normal 9-to-5 job. I wouldn't say normal, but just you have a 9-to-5 job, and there's so much competition for your position that if you're out for 3 to 4 days, somebody else is going to fill your role, right? That's the only time people will understand that. Yeah. And I wish they could understand that.
It's a lot of pressure. Well, first of all, even when you get signed, even if you're not hurt, they still looking for your replacement. I want people to know that. You could be perfectly fine, and they still looking for someone who might be cheaper, who might be faster, who might be whatever the case may be. So your job is not secure whatsoever. And of course, on top of that, most people don't want to read further into the headlines. They see PED, performance enhancing drugs, they think steroids. Mm-hmm. Most people are surprised when I tell them Adderall, right? And especially because they got their kids on it or something like that. So it's a big surprise. It was a surprise for me as well, but those were one of those moments that had to happen in order for me to start understanding what I'm putting in my body. Well, actually, I'll say the second suspension is really what did it, but we'll get to it. Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Yeah, we just now getting that train rolling. Yeah, we
got to massage this thing real quick, right? We got to foreplay this thing, right? So as an athlete, you're going through this, and you're having these mental traumas, right? You're having to take this medication. It's almost like it's an example of why athletes probably get paid as much as they get paid, because the job security isn't secure. It's a high risk, high stakes job.
Absolutely.
And the injuries are high, and the brain trauma is high, and a lot of pressure. And how do you feel about people always comparing themselves to athletes or down talking athletes because he makes $20 million? What's wrong with him? He should just be happy for it. Like, what do you feel about that when people speak that way about athletes?
It took me a while to understand other people's point of view, because it used to piss me off a little bit. Yeah. But the Bible teaches us forgiveness and grace, so I have to meet people where they're at, right? Yeah. So if that's their only perception of athletes, is they almost look at us like robots, right? Like, hey, we see this finished product out there. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We don't really care, first of all, and
perform.
Perform. So they're paying their $80 for a ticket or however much. So they're expecting a product out there. It's almost as if they're going to Chili's and they Sizzler coming out or something like that. They're expecting that product to come for what they paid for. So it's unfortunate, but I was able to see on the front end exactly why some guys will sit out, right, and renegotiate that contract. I'm not playing until I get my money because, A, nothing's guaranteed. You see how these teams treat you like a commodity. Like the NFL is comprised of 32 master businessmen who own these teams, right? Football is a plaything for them, right? They're not making a majority of their money from us, right? So we don't. You understand how much we don't matter in the grand scheme of things, especially when you get hurt and injured.
And I heard somewhere that the NFL is a 501(c)(3).
It was, I think, up until like 2019. It was
really?
a not-for-profit. Yeah, I don't even know how that works out. But you know, that's one of those things that makes you raise an eyebrow. So you know.
Listen, we played the sport. You know, we're the ones that chose that path. And as men, we lay in our bed that we make, and we're not blaming the NFL or anyone. You know, we knew the stakes that we had, and we took it. But let's go back to the second injury. Yeah. Let's talk about that one. Not the second incident. What happened with that one?
That was just me being stupid, man. Partying, right? I was down here in Miami. You know, I was just finished up my offseason with the Indianapolis Colts and was looking to have a good time. And one of the first places guys go in the offseason to have a good time is Miami, right? And so Miami and Vegas was the move. We were doing a lot of partying. And at the time, like I said before, we were influenced by the music. The street drug Molly was being passed around, right? Spoken about in songs. You know, pop the Molly, I'm sweating. Like, it was one of those things that had become almost a part of the culture. And so me being young, I realized that people enjoyed that stuff at these gatherings and these functions. So I was able to get my hands on some, and that became part of our party ritual, so to speak. And unfortunately, you know, these random drug tests that come from the NFL are coming all off season. And so after one crazy weekend partying in Miami, I think I had a test back in North Carolina. And 3 weeks later, I get a call again from Dr. John Lombardo, who you do not want to hear from. In the NFL, if you get an email or a letter from the NFL offices and it got John Lombardo name on it, you already know what time it is. And so I get this letter, and they told me that I had failed yet another drug test for on the banned substance list for the NFL. Could not for the life of me figure out what they were talking about, right? I'm getting ready to appeal it and all of this stuff. And they send the documents of the report, and it says D-methamphetamine, which I had to look up, which was MDMA Molly at the time, right? So this party drug that guys and people were using, you know, out for their leisure, turned up on the NFL as a banned substance, and I got an 8-game suspension for that. So within 3 years, aside from the NCAA incident, I've got 2 suspensions in the NFL, 12 games, and almost $400,000 worth of fines.
Yeah. So the thing is that, you know, we have to humanize this thing, right? Like,
very hard to do from the public's perspective. They don't.
You're going through all these struggles with playing, this stress, this pressure, and you're trying to find a way to feel good.
Oh yeah.
So mentally, you're trying to put yourself in that feel good state.
Yeah.
Even though, you own up to all your, you know, I'm not making an excuse for you at all. You know, I'm not in a position to make an excuse for somebody. But at the same time, we have to talk about the issue and diagnose the issue. If you're going through so much stress and so much pain, you're trying to make yourself feel good. They didn't offer you an alternative way of making yourself feel good. Like, what were you supposed to do?
No. And nobody cared that I was popping 2 or 3 Oxycontin a day, right? I had an opioid addiction that I was dealing with that nobody knew about. But opioids aren't on the NFL banned substance list. They give you those freely. So I had a whole cabinet of those, like I had Skittles. Like, it was an enormous amount of opioids. You can hear Calvin Johnson talk about some of these things now. He speaks on it. So, you know, they don't really care about that. So it's almost like every man for himself. However you need to feel good, you feel good, and just don't let us catch you. But unfortunately, you know, I got caught up in the wash of that. And you know, there's no excuses for it. You know, I was out having a good time. But I also know now, of course, that they talk about the male brain isn't even fully developed until we're 25, right? So 22, 23, 24, I'm thinking I'm in my prime. I got all of this money that I've just come into, right? My mindset was nowhere near where it is now, right? I was very vulnerable, very much in a space where I was I was prone to highly suggestive activities, right? Especially coming around here, and if the ladies are asking for it, hey, I'm there. I'm doing whatever they ask for. So, it taught me a lot about boundaries, taught me a lot about myself, and it was one of those things where, obviously I wish it wouldn't have happened, but it's that moment where, especially you getting suspended twice. Once is one thing, then twice, now people are really looking at you like you're stupid. People are it's a growing embarrassment for your family, ridicule. You don't know if you'll ever play again, right? I thought my career was over, so it was a lot of things that I was dealing with aside from the injuries and the drug abuse.
Did they offer you any alternative ways of making yourself feel healthy or feel happy?
Not at all. Not at all. No alternatives. I didn't know about any alternatives. And so when I learned about it was during my suspension, right? So during those 8 games, I had a long time to think about things. I went out to Arizona and started training at PED, got on a weight program, man, and went down what we called it the YouTube rabbit hole, right? I had a lot of time on my hands, and I found a guy named Dr. Sebi on YouTube and some of his teachings, and of course I started reading the Bible a lot more, and what came up in the Bible was fasting a lot. I didn't hear, you go to church all these years and you never really hear them talk about fasting. And then I'm seeing this in this book, and I see Dr. Sebi referring to it. I'm seeing about alkaline food. So during this time of suspension was probably my biggest time of growth as far as mentally, spiritually, and physically.
So outside of fasting, were there any other modalities that you used to help you mentally cope?
I dallied in the psilocybins early, just to kind of, obviously I was 420 friendly. Cannabis was very much a part of my life. Thank goodness, because I had been a guy who was a huge opponent of cannabis up until I got to the NFL, and I saw some of your favorite players using it. Right, I thought it was so taboo. I was scared. Before games, pain management. I'm not gonna name any names. Just I ain't gonna throw them under the bus, but just know some of your guys that you've seen on your favorite commercials,
in movies,
and movies were cannabis users. So that actually released some of that stigma and allowed me to partake. I will say, I don't know if I would have made it in the NFL had it not been for cannabis, right? That was another thing where I was like, okay, I don't have to, this Oxycontin and Vicodin doesn't have to be a part of my everyday life. There's another way, and it actually can help me, right? I was able to watch film after I, smoke a J, take my iPad in my bedroom and watch film from yesterday's practice, and I come back the next day with a new mindset, and it was opening my passageways of thinking that had never been opened before, and it was amazing to me.
Yeah. So around that time, it was still banned in the NFL, marijuana?
Yes, it was.
Right? And you never got caught for that?
Actually, I did. Yeah. So
I never heard about this one.
Right. No, I didn't get suspended though. So they got a whole other thing in the NFL for marijuana and things of that nature, what they call street drugs, quote unquote, and you get a warning the first time. But the warning comes with you getting put in what they call the program.
And what's that?
So the program is, let's say you fail a test for training camp in July. You fail that test, you won't face any suspension, but you'll be on probation pretty much for a year. And anytime, anywhere you are in the world, they can call you up and test you randomly for cannabis, and you got to pick up the phone and be on call anywhere. I mean, I've gotten tested everywhere. Like, I've gone on vacation in other countries, and I've still had to report to these guys. And so basically, for a year, you're on probation, and they test you randomly all through the year, and it's very prevalent and random. So that's the program. You got to survive the program. Then if you can survive in there for a year without getting caught, then you get placed out of the program. But if you do get caught, that's when the suspension and the fine comes in. So I think that's how my boy Josh Gordon got caught up in a lot of things, man. Josh is a great guy, great athlete, but that program it's almost unfair,
Yeah. But you can drink alcohol.
Of course, yeah.
You can take Vicodin.
Yes.
But you can't take herbal.
You can take Toradol. That's another thing. Toradol. I don't know if you know the shot we used to get. Yeah, you get before the game. That Toradol turns off pretty much all your pain sensors for about 6 to 8 hours.
Like the cortisol shot. Huh? The cortisol shot.
No, it's cortisol, but it's also Toradol. Toradol is the NFL. I think they don't do the shot anymore. Maybe I think it's a pill, but before they was given a shot, and so you would have a whole team lined up for this doctor to give you a shot in your butt cheek, and for 6 to 8 hours you can run through a wall and do whatever. And it was crazy. But then after, of course, the next day, it feels like you got run over by a dump truck. But in between the lines of the game, man, can't feel nothing. And that Toradol, we know now, has long-lasting effects on the liver, possibly on the brain, things of that nature. So, you know, they were allowing stuff, and it was all about, you know, whatever interest they serve.
Every synthetic medication or every synthetic thing that you consume has some type of drawback or effect to it.